Errol makes it sound like the fact that he didn't want to stay in America anymore was this big blowout between him and Elon and the reason that they don't speak anymore. Well, in fact, it's the fact that he
Yes.
which I think is going to kind of blow some people's minds.
I hope it will.
There's a story the Musk family doesn't like to talk about, one that's been buried for years. But after months of investigation, I think it's finally time to shed some light on it. Not long after my podcast with Errol Musk aired, someone with deep ties to the family reached out. What they shared was disturbing, detailed first-hand accounts of behavior and events that stretch back decades, some unfolding in South Africa and others in the United States. At the center of all of this is Errol's relationship with his former stepdaughter, Jana Bezuidenhout, a relationship that led to children and one that's long been surrounded by silence, discomfort, and speculation. And for the first time, we begin to uncover the real reason behind the fallout between Errol and his son Elon Musk. There has always been questions surrounding the Musk family about what really happens behind closed doors. Today, some of those questions finally get answered. Before we get into the interview, I want to take a moment to show you this visual family tree. It's here to help you follow along, to put faces to the names you'll be hearing, and to show how everyone is connected. At the top is Errol Musk. He was first married to May Musk, and they had 3 children, Elon, Kimball, and Tosca. After their divorce, Errol got involved with Jana Bezuidenhout, who already had 3 kids from a previous relationship, Jackie, Herman, and Jana. Errol and Jana went on to have 2 daughters together, Alexandra and Asha Rose. Eventually, Errol and Jana separated, and Errol began a relationship with Jana, his former stepdaughter, and they went on to have 2 children, Mia and Elliot. Everyone on this tree is mentioned in some way in this episode, so I hope this makes things a bit more clear. Hey everyone, and welcome to the Wide Awake podcast. My name is Joshua Rubin, and today I have a very different episode. I am sitting with a very close member of the Musk family, someone that's very closely related to the family. The last podcast I did was with Errol Musk. I just felt like something was off with that interview. I felt like a lot of the things he was saying didn't really line up, and when I pushed him on things, he was very uncomfortable talking about them. Someone close to the family reached out to me and gave me a very different version of events than the one that Errol gave me. And I think it's worth hearing because some of the stuff is shocking. And I think this is going to take a lot of people by surprise. But I think this is something that's very important to get out there. And for reasons you will soon hear, we're going to keep her identity as much of a secret as possible, just to protect her and other family members. So welcome to the studio.
Thank you.
How are you feeling?
I am feeling quite overwhelmed but calm. It's a story that needs to be told.
Some of the stuff that we're going to be speaking about, from the way it's been told to me, it's like an open secret in the family.
Yes, not just in the family, extended family, friends, social workers, lawyers, police, all those kind of people, extended people and family know about this.
For me, that's crazy how it's been kept under wraps for so long, because especially with so much attention on the Musk family, right? For all of the stuff that we're going to be talking about today to have been kept under wraps, for me, it's just mind-blowing how that has been able to continue for so long. So I think just before we get into talking about what we're going to be talking about, and I think today we're going to very much focus on Jana Bezuidenhout's story, right?
Yes.
Jana Bezuidenhout is the daughter of Jana Bezuidenhout, and her second marriage was with Errol Musk. And basically, since Errol came into her life, a lot has happened, and that's what we're going to be covering today. So I think just before we jump into her story, can you tell me, why are you doing this now? What has happened and what has gone on in the family's life that has led us to this moment where you say it's enough is enough and something needs to happen?
Your podcast with Errol, when the family saw it, and we've been asked that question before, why has this never come out? How has this thing been kept quiet and the suffering it caused? And then the reaction you had from the public, that is one of the reasons, one of the big reasons, and that Errol has opened that door himself before he has blocked by various means this story. And it is right to tell of a story where there's a crime involved at various times that happened, and the wound it has caused in Jana's life, blamed for all of this mostly, and so that the family can also heal, and for the generations to come as well. That is what this is all about.
Can you just give me a little bit of a breakdown, without getting into detail, just of some of the allegations that we're going to be talking about today, just so that people watching can kind of gauge how serious this is?
Yeah, the first thing to talk about where it became clear is when Heide and Errol got married soon after, in 1993. Jana went to her aunt in Cape Town. She stayed there. Heide felt something was wrong with Jana. Ali was just born, and Jana, at 4 years old, was behaving like a teenager, kicking, screaming, crying. And there Jana told her aunt that her stepfather had touched her, had molested her. Her brother was also there during that time, but the moment he left to go back to school, he was in grade 1 or 2 already, she took her aunt to the side. She told the aunt, and she cried. I couldn't believe how a little girl or child could cry. Her heart was broken, and she said, "Please don't tell my mom. Please don't tell my mom."
So, I mean, that's just one of many incidents that we're going to be going over today. There's quite a bit of evidence as well to back these up.
Absolutely.
There's quite a lot of people that know what's gone on. So this is not like hearsay.
Absolutely not. And it's a very difficult story to tell. It's not easy to tell it. It has to be told.
Yeah. One of the points that came across to me was that the family is very, very worried about the current generation of kids, right? So,
yes,
like we said, Errol has had kids with his stepdaughter, Jana, and those kids are very young. I think the oldest is 7, 8 years old.
Yes.
And the others are below the age of 5.
Yeah.
So they're all very young, and the family is extremely worried for their safety going forward.
That is true.
So I think now that we've laid kind of that foundation, I think we can just get straight into Jana's story.
I think so.
So I guess Jana's story starts at around 1990, where Heide's husband dies.
Yes.
Right?
Jana's dad, Jana Bezuidenhout, died in a motor car accident. And shortly after that, around 2 months after that, Heide met Errol. And this is all in Pretoria. And then 2 years later, Heide and Errol got married.
How was life like when Errol first joined the family? Because I could imagine it was quite exciting at the start.
In the family, in the Smith family, which is Heide's maiden name, there has been emotional instability and trauma. The parents were divorced when the oldest daughter was 11 years old. So, and Heide is the 4th child. Because of this instability in the family, and then Heide got married around 19 years old, and then her husband died when she was 24. She was extremely traumatized with her husband's death and being left with these children, and she could barely cope. And so the family was glad maybe that there's an older man and that he could be a father figure, bring stability. And just to add, Jacques, when he died, the husband, he had left her with a fair amount of money. He had made plans before he died that with insurance and so on, that his family will be cared for. So it's not that Heide was a woman left without no money. She could take care of herself, but emotionally she could barely cope with the trauma of her husband's death.
So maybe the family thought probably that Errol coming in would have added some stability.
Definitely.
But obviously that was not the case.
No. At the time of the death, Jackie, the youngest, was 2 months old. To lose your dad at 2 months old was a great tragedy. And a lot of heartache for all of us. Jana was 2 and Harry was 6. He had just started going to school. So to bring stability into the family, we were glad about that and hoped, we hoped for the best.
And when did things start to take a turn? I know we just mentioned one of the incidences, which is, I think, the one that we're going to be talking about again now.
Yeah.
So can you tell me about it? It was in 1993 that the first incident really kind of took place.
Yes. But before that, Heide she went for the first time into a psychiatric hospital to be treated for depression. And in that time, Errol would come and visit her in the hospital, and there was already an issue with the children. He was overheard saying if she could get rid of her children in some way, maybe in foster care, place them in foster care, that they could go off and have a very good time, travel on his boat and go places. So the children were quite from the beginning a burden. And then in 1993, after they got married, Heide sent Jana to her aunt in Darling, and there it came out that Jana was molested. Because this happened in Pretoria, they had to fly, the aunt and Jana, to Pretoria immediately from the airport to Child Protection Service that was in Rietfontein, Pretoria. The aunt never asked Jana the details of the molestation because there might be an influence. They questioned Jana, and then a case was opened at the Brooklyn police station the very next day. And Heide wasn't told about it, only later that evening. That was on I can give a specific date there, the 26th of October, 1993. Heide was told by 2 sisters what had happened. She was so shocked, and Heide went and confronted Errol that same evening. He burst into tears and he admitted that he had done it. And he then also said that he had gone through trauma, which I can talk about.
Which I don't think we need to go into great detail, but
yes, we can
in a previous
that.
conversation, I remember you did say that Errol as a kid said that he was abused by a group of men on a boat.
Yeah.
And that some of the trauma from that incident spilled over and is the reason for all of this stuff.
Yes.
So that's what he says, right?
That's what he said to Heide that evening.
Would you be able to go into what happened in that case? And we can always take it out later, but I just think the details are quite shocking, and I think it might be quite important to talk about exactly what had happened.
I think so. It's a detail, and she told her aunt after she has been to the Child Protection Service, she was taken home to her grandfather's home, where she then said to her aunt, "Can I tell you what happened?" The aunt said, "Yes, you can tell me now." And she said that she was watching a cartoon He came into the sitting room or the lounge. He picked her up and he carried her to outside to where the bins were stored, a little room.
Like the trash cans.
Yeah. He put her onto the trash can and he put his finger, which was obviously very shocking.
And how old was she at this time?
She was 4 years old.
What deal was made there that allowed him to walk away free without having to spend any time in prison?
Heide's lawyer told her he is guilty, he's admitted to what he has done, and that he will go to prison, probably also not stay in there very long. And there's the option of that she's financially then more secure, has a home, gets a monthly maintenance from him, and that is 2 options. She can choose between the 2 options.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people in these kind of situations, from what I've heard, do end up taking the deal. Which is unfortunate. It's very unfortunate for Jana, you know.
Very unfortunate for Jana. And Errol does a lot of manipulation around money. As I mentioned before, Heide did have her own money, but the 2 grandfathers had to step in quickly, the money that she got from her late husband. But they had to secure it and try and save it. And Errol manipulates about money. A lot of that money went into their life together. And so Jana, Heide, over a period of time, there's not enough money, and she looks towards Errol for money. So that was the reason for the divorce. Loud and clear, I can say that.
So I think the next incident is 2 years later, right?
Yes.
In 1996. So there was another incident reported at Lone Hill Police Station against Errol Musk, and I know that the details on this one aren't super clear, right?
No, it's not super clear. All I know is that
to you anyway, yeah.
Yeah. To others, it is. And what I know is Jana wanted to throw herself off the roof at the Lone Hill house. She was taken. She told that she was molested again or touched again. Heide went to Lone Hill Police Station, and Jana told her story there. And again, that story disappeared. Heide and Errol weren't in a good place. They were already divorced. And shortly after that, Heide went into a psychiatric hospital again. She at least over the years went into a psychiatric hospital once a year and more. And Jana, for the first and only time, went to Weskoppies Psychiatric Hospital, where she spent 6 weeks, which was for the family an incredibly hard. It's a state hospital. It's kind of a place that's nightmarish. Cold winter, the dry, high veld grass from Pretoria. To see her there in that state, in a fetus position, she went into the psychiatric hospital there because she was called up in a fetus position and didn't communicate anymore. And she obviously got treatment, got better, and shortly after that, it was decided that the 3 children, the stepchildren of Errol, was going to go into a children's home. So up to this point, they've had a lot of instability. They've spent a lot of times with aunts and uncles and friends and a cousin. They've been going here, there, all over. And as soon as Heide maybe gets back onto her feet again, and she wants the children back, and then the trauma or the inability to cope happens, and they go back to family members and all over. So there has been a lot of instability.
You would think with all of the influence and all the money that Errol loves to talk about, you would think that there would be a better option than just sending them to foster care, right?
Yes.
But from what I've heard, he and what you've said, he is the driving force behind them going to foster care.
The children stopped him from his freedom.
Yes, Hader and I married. It's Hader Marie. We married in 1992.
Yeah.
And she was much younger than me, Hader. It didn't really work out. So we divorced after 2 years. So I knew her daughter, Jana, in that first 2 years when Jana was about 6 or 7 or 8 or something like that. We got divorced in 94. And about 98, we saw each other again more on a let's go out for supper and all that kind of stuff. Turned out she'd had a very bad marriage with this other guy, a policeman who had problems. And we started seeing each other again and we remarried. But when I remarried Hader, she'd already placed her 3 children into the state home custody. Do you understand? She'd made them wards of the state.
Why?
She couldn't afford to keep them. The policemen didn't have the income.
Okay.
And they went to the Louis Botha Children's Home. It's a terrible, well, it's a really nice place because as Rotarians, we used to sort of support it, It's obviously, a wonderful thing, like Boys Town,
At that stage, Hader was married, and a second time, she and Errol they were divorced.
Yeah.
And she met another man. They got married. That was a very unstable relationship. They weren't married for very long. And in the meantime, because of that unstable and abusive relationship, Errol asked for Ali to go into his custody. And she stayed with him where he was living and also at Low Neil, which is quite a well-known incident that Errol talks about, where that shooting accident happened.
Yeah.
And Ali was with him when it happened.
So the shooting incident you're talking about was, I think it was 2 or 3 men broke into Errol's house.
Yes.
And he opened fire and killed both of them.
Yes.
Yeah. And what was Jana's life like in foster care?
That they in the Louis Botha Children's Home, the 3 children were placed each in a home. They weren't together.
Why?
It's probably a policy for the foster care and maybe the social workers.
That just seems like
also
super cruel, though.
It does.
Yeah.
It does.
But anyway, yeah.
Yeah, I think so too. I think so. It was a question, and it seems that they can't bond and have to live their own lives and maybe not hide together and in a little group. So Jana writes in the letter that she took care of Jock especially as a little brother, and but important to say in this children's home story is Hader saw, and she said that it was more like a hostel situation, and that she would go and visit them once a week, and weekends they would mostly go to her and Errol to visit there.
So from 1997 to around 2001, they were in the Louis Botha Children's Home, right? And then in 2001, kids come out of the children's home. What were the circumstances around that?
That's a very good question to ask because of what Errol also had to say about it in the podcast with you. At time, Jock, the youngest, he had a tough time, and he one day ran away, and the whole family had to go and look for him. Then the social worker, there was a dear social worker, she was involved with the family for a long time. She said, and the other people in the children's home as well said, this situation can't carry on. Louis Botha Children's Home or Children's Home are for children where there's no money, where there's financial struggles. And here is a stepdad, and there is money available. These are privileged kids living.
This is like the most privileged family.
Yes.
Especially today, right? In the world, like literally.
Yeah. And even then, they
were very affluent.
Yes, affluent, living in the best suburb in Pretoria.
How did you say how the kids came out of the home?
Yes, they finally, the social workers and the personnel at the home said this can't go on. And then, first of all, Jackie came out first because he was so traumatized. Then after a while they got out one by one, not all at the same time. Then Herman, and then Jana was the last to come out, which again was another cruelty.
Yeah, that they all couldn't just come out at the same time.
Yes, and she's the last to come out.
I think one of the things that stuck out to me as well is now that, like, especially hearing this version of events, is the fact that Errol makes it seem like he did them all a favor by bringing them out of the home, right?
Yeah.
In my interview, he said, like I did everything to get them out and all that kind of stuff. And I was prepared to take care of them.
Yes, and I had the money to get them out.
Yes.
I was the only person who could get them out.
But he's leaving out the fact that he's the reason, or a big part, not the only reason, but a huge part of why they're there.
Yes.
But it's like, I find that in every story that he told, he was somehow the hero of the story, where in fact he was the one that caused the problem in the first place.
Yes. Absolutely.
So when I remarried Hader, her children weren't with us.
Okay.
From 99, 2001, it was just Ali, and then in 99, Rose was born. So we had a little baby, and just me, Hader, and we would try and see the children when we were allowed to, her children. We decided that we're going to apply to have them taken out of the children's home, which was a very hard thing to do. And because the state didn't want to take a chance. So they agreed to let us take the children out one by one. I had to prove that I was now prepared to do this.
To take care of them.
Because the state didn't want to screw around. Yeah, so we got the one out, the oldest one. We actually then got the other little boy out. He was also a boy. They were concerned about the girl, Jana. So she came out last. So we got them out in about 2002. And around about 2002, Elon had his first child. And he contacted us. Of course, they paid for me now. They had a lot of money. They paid for us to come over, to come and meet his little boy who was 3 months old.
So the kids come out in around 2001. And then I know in 2002, Herman, Jana, Jackie, Ali, and Rose go to America with Hader and Errol because Elon had just given birth to his first son.
Yes.
And they were going to go for the christening.
Yes, he and Justine just had a baby son, and the family was invited over for the christening. So Rose was about 4 or 5 months old, and the whole family happy. They've started a new life. They're all out of the home. For a year, they were in school. The children in Pretoria, and so a kind of a relative stability was reached again, all the family, and now the family is flying off to Los Angeles to celebrate the christening of Elon's first child.
Which must have been very overwhelming as well. It's like you're just coming out of the home, and
Yeah.
now it's just like big happy family together again. Let's go to America.
I know.
Nothing happened.
Yes, and they arrive in America, so from a children's home back to Waterkloof in a privileged home life, and flying off to Elon then, who already started making a big name for himself. The whole family flies off there, big excitement, and they are all, once they land at the one airport, they receive the news that Elon's child has died from car death. Elon's baby, first child, had died at 10 weeks old. Elon and Kimball said turn around, but such heartache, confusion and trauma, turn around, but then no, stay. They were
there for the christening. They were saying, don't stay, we're all hard.
Stay, don't stay.
Yeah. So they couldn't decide what they really wanted, because I think they were going through such heartbreak, but at the same time, I think then from what you've said, is they've realized that actually this is a good time to maybe bring the family together again and keep everyone closer together.
Yes, and celebrate family life.
Yeah.
The children that were in a children's home, everybody, we are one big family, let's support each other. And out of that, Elon and Kimball said, please stay in America. Don't go back. Let's all be together here and support each other.
So they wanted Errol, Hader, and all of the 5 kids to move to America and actually just live there from now on.
Yes, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So then finally they ended up in a house in Malibu where Jana and Harry, the oldest, went to Malibu High School. And it was in that same year,
2002.
Yeah, 2002.
So towards the end of the year in 2002, an incident with Errol and Jana happened again at their Malibu house,
Yes.
right? Of a sexual nature. And are you okay with going into that incident and what happened?
Yes, I am okay to say that. So the family received news of what had happened. Haida, again, hugely traumatized. Haida and Harry and Jana, children, they all went off to go to the movies. And somebody forgot something and they turned around to go back home. Jana ran up the stairs to her bedroom to fetch whatever she needed to fetch, and she found her stepdad in her bedroom, and she thought she saw that he was throwing something onto the bed, and she saw it was her underwear. He had her underwear in his hand, and he tried to hide it. And she later on tells more about that in a protection order she asked for. From that incident then, Herman the oldest, he chased Errol out of the house. Elon was notified and a protection order was granted against Errol. He wasn't allowed near the house, and this was with the Los Angeles Family Protection Services. And they had to, then he wasn't allowed to come near them. He had to go and stay somewhere else. He had a boat, if I'm correct, that Elon has bought for him there, or hired, and he could go and live on his boat or wherever else. And the family, it's different from in South Africa. The family all had to go for counseling, and they had to try and find out exactly what happened. And the mother is questioned, the children are questioned, but Errol and Haida both would be questioned and asked exactly and held accountable. How can this happen? So it's more intense than in South Africa. Shortly after that, so Errol was blocked from seeing his family. He was angry about that. And he decided, well, he wasn't decided, he was basically kicked. Elon and Kimball, his family didn't want to speak to him. They were very angry. Haida and her children were in a state crying and drama. And Errol left. And then Haida couldn't cope anymore. Errol talks about that, but he wasn't, as far as I know, and I'm sure of it, he wasn't there when she tried to commit suicide. Other family members flew from South Africa to come and support Haida. After the family has been there, Haida and her children, it seems Elon had their passports. She went and applied. She reported that her passport was lost. And Errol then organized from South Africa passports for them. And Haida and her children flew back. They left the house, they locked the doors, they left everything that was moved from South Africa. All in the meantime, in that, all their furniture and paintings and precious things and baby photo albums, and all their things were moved to Los Angeles or to Malibu, and they left all of that behind and they fled. They rather wanted to come back. I think Elon wanted to be quite strict in the situation and try and control Haida and what's going on with the children.
I'm sure he was probably freaking out. Like, he was like, everything in my career is taking off. My life is, all of the things I've worked towards is finally happening. And now my dad's here and this is unraveling in front of me. So I'm sure he probably just wanted the story to disappear as quick as possible.
Yes.
And this will connect a lot of dots for people, I think, because this is a huge story that has been brought up on every single interview with Errol, and it's been brought up many times with Elon as well, why they fell out and why they no longer speak to each other. And it's always a very vague story. The one he told me doesn't really make sense. What Errol said to me on the podcast, he said that Elon wanted him to stay in America and he left. So that was like the final straw that broke the camel's back, and Elon didn't want to speak to him anymore. Obviously, there was more, like Elon talks about stuff that he suffered through abuse and stuff from his father when he was younger. But Errol makes it sound like the fact that he didn't want to stay in America anymore was this big like blowout between him and Elon, and the reason that they don't speak anymore. Well, in fact, it's the fact that he his stepdaughter.
Yes.
Which I think is going to kind of blow some people's minds. And I can't believe that it hasn't been questioned more, because it just doesn't make sense when he tells the story. And this connects so many of those dots that for me, I was wondering as well.
Yeah, and it's not that Elon was angry because they didn't want to stay anymore and wanted rather to be back in South Africa because Haida is very close to an Afrikaans family. There's more to this story. That incident is the total reason why Errol left America. He wasn't welcome. Elon and Kimball didn't want him around anymore. He had to leave. He had to go. He wasn't welcome. They were very upset. A crime was committed, and they didn't want him around.
They said, we don't want you to go back to South Africa. We want you to stay. They immediately bought us a house in Beverly Hills. At the time, in today's money, it was 70 million. It's not exactly the most friendly place.
Mm.
And so we moved from there to a 2-acre plot in Malibu. Haida was never happy. And so she said, unless we go back, I'm going to kill myself. But in the meantime, Elon and them had kept our passports. So what we did is we went and got temporary passports from the consulate in LA. The word got out because Haida was forever on the phone to her family here. And the family here, one of the family here, tipped Elon off.
Okay, yeah.
That we going to leave. So it was a race to the airport. So we got to the airport first, and all of us flew back, and they got to the airport too late to stop us. We left everything, all the valuable things, everything I had of value, carpets and paintings that were worth hundreds of thousands of rands. Left all my personal things, all left in America. That was the estrangement between me and Elon, nothing else. And we started living down here, but I just felt I was in nowhere. I was nowhere. And we decided we're going to divorce amicably. So I gave Haida, it's 2004, I gave her all the properties and my Vogue, my Range Rover Vogue, and another Range Rover that we had. Everything I had, and cash, 2 million cash.
What I'm about to read is an excerpt from an email exchange between Kimball Musk, Errol Musk, and potentially Elon Musk or his assistant. I'll only be reading Kimball's response to Errol, as it's the part I believe is most relevant to the story. This appears to be from around the time Errol returned to South Africa after the events in America. Hi Dad, adding to your summary, everything that Elon has done has been in the best interest of you, Haida, and the kids. I repeatedly suggested that you take some time, 6 months to a year, and think about things before contacting Elon with your thoughts. You must give it any time to heal, and time is one asset you have. Financially, this has been horrible, but much worse for Elon than for you. Not just in absolute dollars, which are considerable, but in the pain and frustration. Please respect the amount of time and energy that Elon has put into making this unworkable situation work. In the end, it was pointless. The scariest thing that I've ever heard was that the kids preferred living in the children's home than with either you or Hader. Right now, my recommendation to Elon is to think only of the kids. And that's probably more energy than Elon has to spare. When you have a specific recommendation for how to resolve your situation, I will be happy to work it out with you before either of us bother Elon any further with all this. Kimball. And then what happens when everyone gets back to South Africa? I think we're around 2004 now.
When they got back, Hader and the children, Errol had found a new house in Waterkloof Rif in Pretoria, and he was busy rebuilding and making it more of a family home. And they all went back to live with him in the house. But very shortly, as they arrived, Hader went to her sister in Darling, and she said that she wants to divorce Errol. She can't...
For the second time.
For the second time. And she promised she's going to divorce him. This is over, and he's not going to be part of her life anymore. It was impossible for Jana to be around her stepdad after that incident. I mean, nobody could cope.
The fact that she was still around him is kind of shocking.
Yeah, and he has been verbally abusive towards Hader, physically abusive towards her when things got heated.
So Jana comes and goes and lives with her aunt in Darling, and then at some point Hader joins her with the rest of the kids.
Yeah, sort of a year later, she buys a house in Darling, and she close to the aunt, and Errol arrives with them. So this is where all this story also gets interesting, because Errol says from 2004 to 2014-13, he never saw Jana again. Not true. He was around and about all the time. So he lives with Hader for a while in a house in Darling. Then he buys himself another house in another part of Darling, quite close by. And later on, he buys himself a house in Malmesbury as well. So when the children go to school, and Ali go to school, and he's around the family.
He's always around. So that you're saying there was a lot of interaction in between.
Yeah.
Which is a big lie that he told, yeah.
That's a big lie. That is without doubt. And there's people all over Darling police station. There were a couple of fights and dramas got involved. Friends, school teachers, everybody saw him around.
In 2005, that's when Hader and the kids went to go live with their aunt in Darling. In 2006, roughly, this is when Jackie dies in a...
December 21, 2006. Jock borrowed Hader's car. He wasn't supposed to drive. The children were by now so traumatized and rebellious, and partying and carrying on. Normal thing for teenagers, but I would say this was in overdrive to a large degree. He took his mother's car and he drove off one night, and coming back 4 o'clock in the morning around there, he died on the N7. He was driving and he died.
So after that, about 2 years later, Jana goes to rehab for about a year.
Yes.
Right? So what led up to that? Yeah, just how was that experience for her?
After Jock died, there were immense trauma. Hader could really not cope, and her depression turned psychotic. And family members really had to help and take care of the children, taking Rose to school. Ali had just started high school, just to add that, and Errol took her. Hader couldn't drive her to the high school that she went, and Huguenot High School, and he took her he fetched her on Mondays, and she was in the hostel. He fetched her on Fridays and took her back on Mondays again. During that time, Jana became impossible. She was, to a large degree, blamed for Jacques, because they were the two that got up to things. And Jana, by that time, had already started to get involved with drugs. Not drinking and drugs and harder drugs. So, and she also even went back to Pretoria for a little while to live with her grandfather and aunts, 2 aunts. So, and Jana became completely out of hand and ended up for a year finally, which family members also paid for. Elon also paid for a bit there, if I'm correct, for some of it. And she was then in Noupoort, Rehab in the Karoo. She spent a year there where she finished the matric with quite good results, found a lot of stability, I would say. She then came out of rehab and went to Boland College in Stellenbosch to study there. This story is between Stellenbosch and Darling. While she is at the hostel, she's in the girls' hostel in Stellenbosch, Errol comes to visit her there. And he tries to kiss her at the home in Darling, late at night, one night. And he comes to the hostel in Stellenbosch, where he tells her she's beautiful, he wants her, he's so attracted to her. And she's like, ew, stay away from me and my friends, and stay out of my life. And she then went to the police station with family support and she asked for a restraining order against him.
We're going to keep it quite focused, obviously, like I say, to Jana's story. But I think something that's very important is that she is not the only victim. We are talking about Jana's story, but there are other people that have been seriously affected, other family members. But I feel like the reason we're so focused on Jana's story is because she's currently still in this situation. So yeah, I think that is just something important to note, that this is not just Jana. This is something that's happened to several members of several of his kids.
Yes. So the restraining order was given in safe care to one of the family members, and then Jana's being clean and making a new start, she was blamed also, not really believed. She's always blamed that she's the cause of these things. And I kind of, what psychologists talk about, the identified patient in the home. There's a lot of trauma and trouble, but one person is the kind of scapegoat. It's what's going on. And she then quickly falls back into drug addiction, worse than ever, and she ends up living on the street and runs around everywhere, puts herself into extremely dangerous situations, and the family are all, this is too much, what can we do, it's out of hand, this is a nightmare. And then Jana became pregnant while she was living on the street
with someone else's kid who's not related to the story,
yes.
really.
No,
yeah,
we won't go there any further. Yeah. But it
just shows you the state that she was in at that time.
And it disconnects with Errol, because he says the reason Jana contacted him because she had a little girl and was in dire straits around 2013-14, and he helped her.
So I think this is when he says he joined her life again, right? Came
Yes.
back into her life. And I think
Yeah.
just to summarize everything that happened real quick, because I know how people think and they'll go, she's calling him, right? It's like the constant
Yeah.
like victim blaming mentality where it's like, if you look at this situation as a whole, from the age of 4, she's lived in an incredibly unstable home. She has been thrown aside. She's been put in foster care. She's been blamed for everything. And then as she gets older, starts coming to terms with everything that's happening. She starts trying to cope with drugs and going into rehab facilities and all of these kinds of things, and eventually ends up on the street pregnant with some person's kid, right?
Yes.
And she's completely broken at this point.
Totally
And
broken.
I'm just assuming, obviously, I mean, how else you
Totally broken.
totally just broken down.
Very thin,
And
very sick.
someone who's suffered from addiction as well, like I know how much you will compromise your integrity and your morals for drugs, right? So from what I know, she was living on the street. Errol came in as this knight in shining armor and said, I can help you, or she reached out to him, whatever way it happened.
I must also mention that Jana at that stage said that she wanted nothing to do with her mother. Her mother by that time had met somebody else. So
She was
I
alone,
did
pretty
try
much.
to help her daughter to some degree, but Jana didn't want to see her mother, and she must have. Errol knew about that because they're communicating, because there's Ali and Rose, and then he steps in.
Yeah,
He's now tried to
he
being
steps
a rescuer.
in, and it is, some people might think that's crazy that you would go back to the person that's done all of this to you, but that is literally what grooming is.
He's a dad.
Mm.
Let me put that
And
strongly.
even though he's been the worst dad ever, he has been
He's
the
her
dad
only
that's
dad.
been there, that
He's been
consistently,
there.
for better or for worse,
Absolutely.
she sees him as dad.
And she calls him dad. He is dad, and so here is a dad that is going to help her, even though he has been abusive. It's not a strange story
No.
in the world.
So at this time, she was very heavily addicted to substances. She was in
Yeah.
a really bad place financially.
Yeah.
And he says what?
He also says that in the interview with you. He started then finally Jana's partner that she had offering them money. They were kicked out of the place they lived in Tableview, and they moved to Darling into a shop, an empty shop. That becomes their house. They live there, and they've got no money, and of course the aunts and uncles are tired of always giving money in this situation. And so he starts giving her money. I think he mentions there 1,500 Rand a month. And also she needs to be on a medication called methadone. He helps her with the methadone, providing that for her, finding it or paying for it. It's expensive.
So he starts giving her money. What happens after that, right? So
he also invites her, because she's got this little baby, to come and stay with him.
So after Heidi, right, Bezuidenhout, you guys split. When did you start seeing her daughter?
In about 2014, I got a letter from Jana saying that she is in desperate states. She was now about 28, 27, 29 or something. She had a little girl of 6 that had been taken away from her by the state because she couldn't look after the child. And she was also an addict on stuff that was being sold here. Terrible story. I drove to the place where she was, and I met her, and she was literally her legs were like broom handles. I realized I got to help her. Then I left for the US, gave her money to spend while I was away. She moved. She was with this boy, man, or whatever it is. And then when I came back, I continued to help her. The money grew over the next 2 years, and I bought them a second-hand car. And then in about 2016, she contacted me and said that she's on the street. This chap has thrown her out of this place. So I said, well, have you got the car? Yeah, she's got the car. It was a hatchback. I said, throw everything you've got into the back of the car and come here, obviously.
This next email is a response from someone working for Elon Musk addressed to a concerned family member. I've talked with Elon, and it goes without saying that you are all in a very difficult situation there. In the time since you've sent your notes, Errol has asked for Rose to attend Herschel boarding school, which would likely be a good place for her since she will be out of the house on a regular basis and at school. We will have to see if that school is an option. Alternately, the situation with Jana remains dire and circular with her in and out of rehab. The offer we can make from this side is that Elon will pay for all days Jana remains in the rehab clinic until she is clean. We will not make an upfront payment for the treatment, nor will we provide funds directly to any family members, only to the rehab clinic itself. If Jana does not attend treatment sessions, we will not provide funds. So Errol starts involving himself more in Jana's life, and then at one point he says, you can come stay with me.
Yeah.
Which was, I think, around 2017.
Yes. Around
2016, 2017.
Yeah, 2014, 2016, that whole period, there is a coming and a going.
And then in 2017, this is when the news came out that I think shocked pretty much the world, was that Errol had had a kid with his stepdaughter, which he was the one that told the world about this. He was very proud about this. He did not seem to, because I asked him, I said, in our interview, I said, why did you want the world to know about this? And he said, I don't feel ashamed of my children or something like that.
Yeah.
I don't remember exactly what he said, but it was...
That's more or less.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I just thought, but you don't think it's a little bit strange? And I was trying to word it in the nicest way possible, but you don't think it's strange to have a kid with your stepdaughter? And he said, one woman's another woman, which is one of the most unbelievable things I've heard someone say before about having kids with their stepdaughter.
Yeah, the way he spoke about women in that interview really is unacceptable.
And around this time was the time where Elon had an interview with Rolling Stone, and he said in that interview that his father had done pretty much every evil or illegal thing that a person can do. That might be paraphrasing a bit, but it was along those lines.
Yes.
So how did the family react when they heard of this news?
For the family...
Because he said everyone was kind of okay with it, it seemed. That's how he made it seem.
No, nobody was okay with it. Heide even went, she spoke with Rapport and said that he brought shame on the family. Then the family this was now really way too much. For the family, this is unacceptable, outrageous, it's heartbreaking news, but we are part of a big family and we love children and we want to protect them.
And I asked him how Elon had reacted to all of this happening, and he said that Elon didn't really involve himself in it, he didn't really care, and that it was fine because Kimmel had a baby with his waitress that worked at one of his restaurants or something.
Yeah.
Which was a very strange way to kind of dodge that question. But how did Elon, do you know about that? If not, it's fine, but...
What I know is that Errol wrote to Ali an email to say he and Jana they are expecting a baby, and it was such a beautiful, sensual experience and a wonderful thing that happened. Then
he said that they just had this wonderful romantic connection that came out of nowhere.
Yeah.
But obviously Elon must have known that was a lie because of the incident that happened in Malibu.
So Ali is living in America already, And she is so upset. She's freaking out. And she tells her brothers, she tells her mother. It's how Heide found out. And the rest of the family finds out about this. So everybody is outraged and can't, what is this?
In our interview, I also had asked him, I said, because he said when the news came out, Rose wanted to leave the house straight away. And I said, was it because she felt unsafe? And then he proceeded to call me stupid for asking that question, like it was a stupid question to ask.
Yes.
Was that,
I saw that.
Why did she move out?
Rose found the email. She went into her dad's office or somewhere, and she found the email that was written to Ali. She read it. She was so freaked out and overwhelmed. She packed her bags right there and then, and she moved out.
And
she finished the matric.
From what we've spoken about,
somewhere else.
I was correct in saying she felt very unsafe.
Very unsafe. Yes.
So it wasn't such a stupid question after all.
No, not at all.
And she came here, and she was obviously in much better condition by that stage. And we just got on terribly well. Then she left. A couple of months later, she called me and said she needs to see me. So she came. We sat out there. She said, I'm pregnant. I'm not sure what I said exactly, but I'm pretty sure it's not me. So she said, it is you, because although I've been back with this guy, we don't do anything. We're just there together, So I said, well, I didn't really believe that, because that's standard story from women, The results eventually came back when she was 4.5 months pregnant, that it is 99.9% my child. Front page news in the Daily Mail the next few days.
So you leaked the story yourself?
Yeah, I linked it to the Daily News.
Why did you want people to know about this?
I don't hide about my children.
And were you not nervous for your ex-wife to find out that you had a baby with her daughter?
No, she was remarried. She'd remarried somebody else.
Yeah, I know that, but it's still unconventional,
No, she was living with someone else.
Do you not think that's strange at all?
No. One woman's another woman. You must remember, in 2/3 of the world right now, marriageable age is 12.
Yeah, that's wrong though.
Well, you may think so.
You don't think
tell
so?
2/3 of the world that. Because the marriageable age is not 12, the Western world has a lot of problems.
How did your family react when they found out?
Well,
I'm
Kimball
very
said
curious.
it happens because he just had a child with one of his waitresses while he was married. He had a child, a beautiful girl.
And Elon,
She's
how
now
did
12.
How did he feel?
Elon, I never heard anything from Elon. Elon was not the sort of person who would even be interested. Rose was living with me. She immediately said she wants to live in somewhere else. She doesn't live here anymore. It was me.
Yeah.
She was in the middle of matric.
Why didn't she feel safe anymore? Or?
No. That'd be ridiculous. That's so dumb. That's really a dumb question.
I thought that's what you were getting
It's
at.
a dumb question.
Yeah.
But it's the sort of question stupid people would ask.
Okay.
And I say that to you straight.
Thank
They
you.
don't ask stupid questions like that. But you're not stupid. I can see that.
Thank you.
And then from here, the family just completely falls apart.
Yes.
Everyone kind of goes into, from what I can tell, a bit of a meltdown.
Yes. Spinning.
And Errol's on the Daily Mail, and this happened a bit later when he came out with it, but everyone else is like, oh my word, this is the most insane thing ever. We have, if this gets out, it's going to be crazy. And here goes Errol. Yeah, I did it.
Yes.
Imagine, after not only, because it's not illegal, is it? I don't think it's illegal. It's extremely unethical. But knowing that behind the scenes, a lot of illegal activity has taken place, the fact that he went out with so much courage to say, yes, this was me. I did this. I had a kid with my stepdaughter and we love each other. It's bizarre.
It's bizarre. People would mostly like to keep a thing like that private to protect everybody.
I would keep much less than that private.
Yes.
So the family starts kind of falling apart from there. And then since then, Errol and Jana have had 2 more kids.
Yes. There's 2 other children. And he says that the oldest of the little girls is his as well. So the rest of the family, we don't talk about that too much. We don't. Yeah.
But we can maybe take this out later. But so
Yes.
there's two kids that are known, and then the one kid is like a secret that no one's kind of heard about.
Yes. Yeah.
I wonder why he's keeping that one a secret.
I wonder why.
Strange.
Myself.
And then also, I'm not sure how we approach this one, but after this incident in 2022, there was a family Christmas, and another shocking incident comes to light that, for the protection of that individual, we're not going to go into much detail about. But if you want to maybe say something about that or not, it's up to you.
I'll just briefly say that was the last straw in Heide's family. She and her brothers and sisters broke up around that story because wanted to keep that private and did not. Yeah, it should be just his old and let it be.
If that was their mentality, it's obviously not your mentality.
That's correct.
You know, and I think that
where's your moral compass? You know, this is now really enough. This can't go on. It should be whatever is going on. There's children that needs to be protected, and strong action is required.
So there was an incident where Jana found out a very shocking piece of information, and that led her to go and find Errol, which she did at a restaurant, and confront him. Can you tell me just what happened there?
Yeah, this concerns the vulnerability of children. She ran into a restaurant in Langebaan and she screamed at him at the top of her voice, "You are a pedophile," and she was completely hysterical. "You leave me alone, you leave us alone."
Oh, it's insane.
Very hard to talk about.
I know we've spoken about a lot of this before, but it's just hearing it in just this order is enough is enough. And I feel like you say, even though so much has happened and so much has gone on, that doesn't mean you must keep letting it go on and keep letting it happen. So I think we've kind of gone through the whole timeline here, really. Is there anything that you would like to close with?
I just would like to say that this is a wound that has festered for a very long time, since we've known Errol. And hopefully it will bring some closure. It will bring some dignity back in some way. And that there can be some healing and protection. This is why I'm doing this interview. It's not easy. It's not easy to speak about this. It's exposing a lot. And one asks yourself, is this the right thing to do or not? But it's taken a long time to come to this decision. Yes, it feels right.
This is not a decision that you've made lightly, which is, I think, very evident. And I think people, from the way you've told the story today, will see how much this has been on your mind. I mean, yeah, I think you're very brave for doing this.
Thank you.
No problem. And I think that brings us to the end of this episode. Just once again, thank you so much for coming down. And I really do hope that something comes from this. Thank you all for watching. I hope you took something out of this. I hope some information that was brought to light makes other things more clear. And thank you for watching. I'll see you very soon. That's it.